We're here on another episode of Go FUD Yourself.
Back
Ceara
again.
here, and we have Ben. Ben is replacing our beautiful JD. So I hope that you have lots to say to carry the conversation, Ben.
So many things. High energy.
This is a little bit of a weird dynamic, actually, because you hosted on Monday, but usually I host. So are we going to be like
passing the torch?
Are you a guest or are you hosting today? What's going on?
No one knows. No, you're in charge. You're in charge. Lead the way.
Yeah. Thanks for validating that I'm in charge. I needed that on a Wednesday.
Let me mansplain to you how in charge you are.
Wednesdays are Degen News Day, and Degen News Day is one of the hardest days to find news for. I end up searching for the other ones, like I just look at my news feed and it's pretty easy. But for Degen News Day, I have to like go on crypto Twitter and figure out what people are talking about, and it's a little bit more involved. And of course, what people want to hear the most about is price movement. But what I hate talking about is price movement because I feel like it's both the most funny and hypey thing possible. But we are going to talk about Arbitrum and Kronos really briefly. And then we're going to talk about other launches. We're going to talk about other closures. We're going to pop down into some Bitcoin mining towards the end, which I think you might have a very personal take on. And then in between that, we're also going to talk about staking. So ETH is staked like crazy. There's a lot of new opportunities for staking right now. But what I really like having you on for, Ben, is that you work in the traditional world like I did recently. I did until recently. And I really like the business of Degen economics. I've been pushing this doctrine. On Tuesday, I also made JD talk about the business. So get ready to be quizzed, I guess.
All right, let's go.
All right.
I like those videos. I like the cartoons. If I keep coming on, I'm going to have to get my own version, aren't I?
I thought about putting on the punk rock one today. I feel like it's more you and I, but
probably. How did you decide on the characteristics? I got to figure that out. We have to talk to the artist.
Oh yeah, I've talked about this several times. I'm very flattered that our graphic designer thinks I'm so wildly hot. I hope he never meets me in person because I will not meet his expectations.
I have nothing to say on this topic.
No, every time I look at that, I'm like, yeah, it's a really good inspo pic.
You look like you're coming off of a New Orleans parade in that picture. I love it.
It's amazing. I liked the original one. I felt like the original one was based off of what I looked like in high school. Have like a big punk rock jacket and like dreadlocks and stuff, but It's maybe not accurate now. Hey, Ben, are you bullish on Arbitrum?
I actually medium am. I think it's fascinating. So where's this story come from? We got a story here that it's going to zero.
So Hedge with Crypto
Who said this?
Has stated that there are top 5 assets that are going to go to zero within the next 6 months, or at least touch zero within the next 6 months. So Arbitrum and Kronos are the 2 biggest names on there. And of course, those are 2 tokens that people have really banked on in the last year. And Arbitrum especially has been in my personal news feeds and crypto Twitter there's been a few scams, but there's also been tons of airdrops, lots of price movement, lots of to the moon. And then it's just gonna turn back.
I mean, it might. We've seen crazier, but what are they? In the news story, do we have any data on this? Like, are they actually going, this is the reason why? Or is it just, how much of this is just creating noise to create attention?
I think a lot of it is noise, because when I was reading through the article, they actually talked about all the really good things that Arbitrum and Kronos are doing. Like Kronos updated its roadmap and has they're going to be impacted by the crypto.com licenses, that kind of thing. And Arbitrum has some new products on it. And it just seemed like one of these wild things that they have said as clickbait, which is kind of why I wanted to bring it here, is the most that we see in Degen news is price fluctuation and inaccurate forecasting. And it's like the funniest and also hypiest thing that you can read on your crypto newsfeed.
I just find it fascinating when someone goes, it's going to go to zero right now. And there's plenty of situations where that's happened. It's interesting when someone says that and then doesn't give you the data why. Right.
Well, also though, is TA qualified as data? If you saw some Degen TA, would you believe it?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's that double-edged sword of, you can kind of get a heads up sometimes through the network, and when something's going down, but at the same time, 90% of what's out there is noise. And no one knows. Everyone's trying to predict the future. That's the
Yeah,
no one knows.
I feel like just stating that these, and I think one of the other ones was Sandbox, are going to go to zero within the 6 months is just like so arbitrary and unmitigated.
It's interesting they went Sandbox, but did they also go with Decentraland, or was it just Sandbox they wanted
Just
to go to?
Sandbox. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, does it? I mean, it might. I would be surprised if those do. There's all sorts of things being built on all of those things, even Sandbox. So 0 in 6 months. I mean, we could be 5 months and 29 days on and be laughing at this post.
Like, I'm not saying that it won't. I guess part of this too is like, what are they worth now, right? ARB right now is what, $1.13 today? So like to zero isn't really that far, or maybe they're stating to zero as in like it will be close to zero. I mean, it could go down to 5 cents or 10 cents or 25 cents, but again, they haven't stated any actual threshold. So this is my listen Degen news. Stop being so funny. Set up your own trading manifesto and stick to it. Like
Agreed. What do we have next?
All right, but so I have to say that when you are looking at are things going to go to zero or they're going to get better, you have to look at all of the marketplace conditions, right? Who's entering, who's leaving, why are they doing that? And so Algofi is ending, and that's actually from the horse's mouth. They're shutting it down. So this is, if you are looking for some price movement that you can predict, this might be an indicator. Do you use Algofi? Do you think that this like impacts the most average Degen? What does it look like?
This is interesting. This was one of the, if I go back now for 3-4 years, this is one of the hot ones I was looking at probably before I moved from New York. So it took 2019. Yep. I was really Algorand. I can never say it. Thank you. I just stumble over it every time. It's sad to see them shut it down, honestly. Great team. I think some of the team actually came from Google. I think some of them.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So really interesting.
It's a little bit weird because it is the largest DEX in Algorand. So their TVL is the highest at 32.36 million, but they peaked some time ago. A lot of value.
I mean, is it another casualty of the market situation right now? Maybe it's sad to see this happen. I would be interested to see what they do to rally from this point, but I think there's definitely still potential there.
Wonder where they're going to head to. But on the other hand, we've got Switcheo has launched Fluo Finance, which is a new liquidity platform within DeFi.
Fluo Finance. We're just naming things that Ben can't say properly now at this point, aren't we?
I've taken looking the names up and seeing how they might have come up with them, because oftentimes, as a marketer, I have to do a lot of product naming, and oftentimes we take like a word and then we make it like more searchable or less searchable or whatever. And so yesterday we talked about Linné coming out, which means stripe, and I thought maybe that was like a thumbing the nose.
Yeah,
stripe,
I was listening to the episode yesterday.
But also Linné is a medical term for like a bad rash. So like I don't know how much thought actually goes into these, right?
I like it.
And kind of like same with fluo. I'm like, it could be an illness.
Fluo. Yeah, cold and fluo. Anyway, what is Fluo up to?
Anyway.
Liquidity. It's liquidity.
So what I thought was interesting here, like very, very genuinely, is it's the concept of staking. It's the concept that you can go on any network with any token that you have and you can stake it. And what they're calling that is omnichain liquidity platform. This is where I thought that the business is interesting, because so far we've been talking about interoperability. We've been talking about scalability. We've been talking about cross-chain, multi-chain. How do you feel about the term omnichain?
I think it's inevitable. I can't see us in 20, 30 years time not having it on chain, or more likely that it'll be multi-chain in the background, but it'll feel like omni-chain. So you just don't know that you're switching between chains, because everything is like the user interface is so smooth. Like for example, in payment systems right now in traditional finance, if you send money between countries, it goes through multiple different payment networks at once. You don't know that. You just send the money from your, send money from your online banking. It arrives in your family's bank in whatever country you send it to. It might have to go through 6 banks and 3 payment networks to get there, but it's still got there. We'll end up with something similar, is my opinion. Whether that's true omnichain because we've lost so many chains, it's all down to one. Everything's on EVM.
Oh, that's so fun.
Or we've built all these really smooth bridges or ways of moving value and information between chains. I don't know which way it's going to go that way, but eventually it's going to have to be, I think. So positive. I like this. Staking anything. I don't know if you should be able to stake anything. Like, there should be some kind of minimum viable system chain dynamics.
I'm sure they have actual rules, but I did take a look at their website. I'll post it on Twitter after, and that's the statement is like stake anything anywhere.
I mean, does that mean that you can just launch like a shitcoin and immediately stake it? Is this just doubling down on opportunities people lose money? I don't know. That makes me a little nervous, but I think being able to stake the top 20, 25, 30 chains makes absolute sense.
You have to tell me what other system or what other function we work in where you're like, yeah, the top 20, 25, 30, maybe the top 50. They're all very reliable.
Bars, hairdressers.
I don't know if I can trust you on hairdressers. But...
What do you mean I get cut regularly? I actually have thick, luxurious hair. I just choose to daily have it cut. That's what I know. It's every morning, 7 a.m. Some people go to the gym, wet shave, or a hairdresser comes around, different one. 30 a month.
I'm intrigued by this term omni-chain because maybe it's because I'm in marketing, right? So we think about omni-channel support and how you don't want to know that you've actually switched customer service reps, or we don't want you to know that you've actually changed platforms, or we don't want you to know that you went to an e-commerce system from our actual website, all those kinds of things. And in some ways, I wonder if that concept, thinking about it in that way, would make omni-chain almost not transparent enough. Which then kind of leads me to the question, is this how we overcome DeFi and bring it into blockchain finance? Is this how we close that chasm for, the first billion users? Or does this cause a problem because we aren't sticking to the transparency that is part of the ethos of blockchain?
I think it's both, a bit of both. I mean, ideally, if you were to have different assets, right, and you were to have it all into one system, not going to say wallet, but system, and it auto-staked, so you just earn saving interest, credit interest, effectively, on all of your tokens all at once, regardless of where it was, that's great. That's a really good platform with user interface. Hey, as long as you have funds with us, it'll automatically be staked across whatever chain it's on. I mean, I'm sure we'll get there. Someone will build that. We'll get there sometime. But it could go horribly wrong. Buddy, might as well.
Well, in the same kind of vein, Crypto.com has actually enabled on-chain staking.
Love it.
Yeah, I
love it.
I feel like this is also one of those things where we can cross people over into the DeFi world from their typical crypto land. But it also provides me some concerns like what you said earlier. Is this something that we actually need and should be doing, or is it kind of a ploy for marketing?
Yeah, I think there's that subset of people that have funds sat in a savings account right now that could be earning higher interest rates, even with the really high interest rates that are in the world at the moment, through staking rates, which say through staking, but they just don't have the patience or the focus or there's a bit of a fear factor to figure out a wallet and all of the different things. So when any kind of big exchange makes it easier to stake, I think it's a positive move. But you only have to do once. You sign up to a Coinbase or Crypto.com or Kraken or whatever else, and then they have it readily available with a click of the button. That's good. Just so long as it's been battle tested and they don't stake it and they can't get it back.
Well, okay, so you're supposed to be able to unstake immediately. There's no time period.
Okay. That's good. We like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. And yeah, no lockup period and daily rewards.
Ooh.
It's interesting, but I also question how that works for Crypto.com. Like, is that stable enough?
Good question. We'll find out.
Not that I am the expert on crypto stability, but it's just a question that I have. But if you don't have tokens to stake, if that is not the world in which you live, if you don't have a really robust portfolio, we are looking at utility. We're looking at real world uses of being able to stake otherwise. So there's this great DeFi story that came out on Monday that a luxury watch was used as collateral in a loan.
This is the underlying bit of this is fascinating for me. So an NFT was created that represents the watch in real life, right? This is another example of how the technology is being used to create a unforgeable record of that. So if you've ever brought a luxury watch, it comes with a little card, right? But you can forge those. with any kind of luxury watch, especially if it's a Rolex, for example, comes with the same box, a little card, and that has to go with the watch wherever it goes. And if you try and sell it without it, it's worth a lot less. Well, that card can get bent or scratched and damaged, and if you have a flood or all these things, right? That card is effectively what the NFT is here. So that's really interesting. They've done that. The fact that they've collateralized against it. It's not the first time someone's collateralized a loan against a real life asset. I think they've been doing that in real estate for a while now.
They have, yeah.
But the fact that they've created that NFT record that holds the watch data to then collateralize against that, I think is really interesting. And this is probably the beginning of a lot of that kind of action with luxury goods. And we're starting to maybe have the second wave of NFTs where we step away from cartoon profile pictures, not that I'm knocking them, and into a whole world of trading NFTs that represent physical goods in real life. So, and then if you tie that in with any of the sort of sandbox or metaverse stuff, you could very quickly start creating very interesting situations where the virtual world is directly linked to assets in the physical world.
Mm-hmm.
Lots to be built out here. Very exciting.
That, like, loan sharks are going to come for you in the metaverse instead of like in real life.
Yeah, you're going to get like a Minecraft shark chasing you in the metaverse.
This is actually a question I have. So if this luxury watch has been used as collateral, although I love the NFT component, I love the utility, I think it's really real world, right? Something people can grasp. What happens if they default on that DeFi loan? This luxury watch is the collateral. So are we actually going to be sending people out to repo, just like TradFi does, or are we just repoing that NFT, or do we even have the jurisdiction to do something like that? We being colloquial.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because right now there isn't the infrastructure to really to say the world was set up so that all luxury watches had to be sold with the NFT, and that was the expected standard. Yeah. Then you would then just put you would directly go after the NFT. You wouldn't need to go after the physical watch, because in the real world it wouldn't sell for as much as soon as the NFT was taken. But right now, when you sell a watch, you walk into a watch dealership, they don't ask to see the NFT because they don't know to ask, because it's not a thing. So if the digital world catches up, then maybe you just have a digital loan shark chasing you, honestly, for your NFT. Maybe you set up a smart contract where it automatically gets taken out of your wallet.
Right.
Very easy to do. And then it would be automatically sort of settling on the default of the loan, and you'd lose the NFT and you'd lose the value of the watch. But that relies on the physical world matching the digital world, which might take 10 years to catch up. So for now, someone has to get a taxi and go and find the watch and take it.
I don't know why this is so interesting to me, but
I'm fascinated because it has so many more repercussions of what can be used. So the fact that we're starting to see NFTs being tied to physical things is very interesting to me.
Well, there's also this element of, right now we have a credit score in DeFi, right? And in DeFi, the term that we use the most is probably reputation score. So are we really just moving all of these factors directly over? And will your reputation be impacted? Can you make up your reputation score for, defaulting on a loan and not handing your watch over? Can you make up for that by participating as a community mod for a long time? Does that actually look like restorative justice? Like,
I don't know. And then also, how do you stop someone having multiple wallets? So your one wallet defaults, and then the NFT gets taken and gets sold on. And what if you just buy it back with a secret different wallet? So it's like, where do we get to? Where do we link wallets officially to social security type numbers, tax identifiers globally, so that you can have an official wallet, an unofficial wallet, or do you only get allowed to have one? Is there going to be like this world standard of just one type of wallet that comes out, that one particular exchange recognizes?
Ben, are you talking about CBDCs? Okay, in any case,
let's go down that route.
Whether you're using your watch as collateral, or whether you have some cool tokens and you want to have an on-chain experience, there are lots of things going on in the staking world. So much so that 20% of ETH is now staked.
Oh, I mean, that's impressive. I mean, when did it only started staking? What, a year and a bit ago?
Not a year.
All right. So
yeah,
it's impressive.
I know.
Good. I think that's a really good step for bringing across people from the TradFi space, right? Ethereum is seen as less scary to invest in than a lot of the others. It's one of the big two, right? So there's a lot of institutional money in that now. So now it's staking, they can own that. This is just now very bullish for me. We're moving forward.
the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting about 20% of ETH being staked is who's staking it, right? And Alluvial yesterday, they are claiming to be the primary institutional staker.
Okay.
And so they raised 12 mil in their Series A yesterday. But they've actually been allowing for ETH staking for, I want to say 8 months now.
Okay.
So I wonder too how much of this is retail staking versus institutional staking. I wasn't able to find any data on that, but I would be intrigued to learn what that looks like.
Do we know how much they have staked? No. I would say, I suspect, with the amount of big players coming into the space now, I mean, was it last week? There was a lot of these institutional players wanting to come in. That's just going to go up, right? I can't see an institutional player putting a couple of $100 million into Ethereum and then not staking it, especially if it can be unstaked pretty quickly. I mean, why would you not earn, 3, 4, 5, 6%, whatever it is at now? It makes sense. So then that's just going to go up, especially as these ETFs are coming in. So they're going to get a lot big waves of funds coming in, people that are in the TradFi space that don't want to be directly have to have the hassle of going into setting up a wallet and everything. So they'll just say, well, can part of my fund, my pension, whatever, be put into your ETF that tracks? So the funds are in, and then on the flip side, are the institutional investors going to directly put that in Ethereum? I think they have to, and then it would stake. So if 20% stake now, I wouldn't be shocked if in 6 months' time we double that. Oh, I don't think I can hear you, Ceara. We may have lost your.
Sorry.
There you
Sorry.
go.
I have a barking dog. And my mic then pushes me out.
He's very passionate about crypto.
It's interesting to double it, but then how does that impact our liquidity? Like, does the market become less usable?
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm just curious how that looks. Ben.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about mining, or do you have to go?
No, we can talk.
Talk about mining?
Yeah.
This is the most awkward segue ever, but mining, Bitcoin mining, a topic that we're all
two stories on this
about because it started us down these paths. Vanguard has increased their investment in Bitcoin miners. Do you, I mean, you're from the TradFi world. What does this mean to you? What does it look like to you?
I think this is a very smart play. I think JD said on the episode yesterday, what was it? Do you invest in the shovel or do you invest in the mine? This is investing in the shovel, right? So there's always going to need to be Bitcoin miners. It's a lot of logistics to run a large Bitcoin mine. So the next best thing is investing in them, right? I think it's a smart play. I think for the big players, it's a fairly predictable return. Like it's a stats game based on the number of miners you have and everything. You can kind of roughly guess how many times you're going to get it right and be able to play. So it's fairly predictable revenue stream. I think it's just smart from those guys to have their feet in the game there.
I mean, I do think it's smart. I'm not trying to say anything about it not being smart. They raised their stake in Riot blockchain by 18% of what they already had, and they raised their stake in Marathon Digital by 60%. And the counter argument here is that Marathon Digital has actually seen a 20% decline in success in Bitcoin mining in the last June compared to May. So they're for the summer.
I think they've got it correct and being able to place the block, or they've just had less blocks to place. Do we know the difference? We don't know. Well, they're also citing, and this is close to home for me, Texas weather. Bang on the money here. It's been 100 to 110 now for the last 2 or 3 weeks. We're having a major heat wave in Texas. So I don't think we have the full details in this, but weather conditions causing a drop. I can see that there must be, because mines create a lot of heat anyway, right? It's effectively thousands of computers running in a warehouse. So then if you put the temperature up in the warehouse to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm assuming some of their rigs are getting overheated and just shutting down. That's where I'm going with that story.
I couldn't actually find details about what had occurred. And the other thing I was trying to find details about is, does this happen every year? Do they have a great winter and a terrible summer?
This is one of the hotter ones. It comes and goes. So last year was actually a colder summer for Texas.
Oh, interesting.
It wasn't too bad. It was in the 90s, and the year before that was a little bit cooler. But then this year's come out the gate around the end of May with 100, and then June was pretty much 105 up for the whole month. So there's a lot of focus on miners in Texas, especially in the Dallas and space. Obviously, Texas has its own power grid. So this is a hot political topic that I'm not going to wade into. But yes, Texas is the only state that has its own power grid to the rest of the country, which means that Texas legislature have more control over how they can create surplus power or not. And there's been a lot of work. Remember from 3 years ago, there was the big freeze when huge chunks of Texas lost power, and which meant they lost heating, and it was below freezing. So a lot of focus and funding went into Texas to try and fix that. And then off the back of that, there's been a lot of lobbying to create surplus power for or support Bitcoin mining. So it's interesting now that's kind of flipped, and that the heat is stopping that. They also mentioned here that transaction fees are dropping as well. I'm guessing that's a little bit to do with the market. We're in a bear market, so I just think long term,
it's smart to invest in them. Maybe it's kind of a funny time to invest in them, or maybe it's a little bit less expensive because they aren't being as
potentially.
Maybe that's
I think it's a good long-term play. I can't see Bitcoin mining not being a revenue generator in the near future. We're in a bit of a down market right now. Investing, owning, getting your rig set up, getting all the infrastructure in place, it's just going to make you money for the next 10, 20
I suppose once Bitcoin
years.
is successfully mined, when that is a period space, you can also reuse all of that infrastructure for mining other things. I mean, Elon believes that all currencies will be backed by digital by 2030.
Yeah, let's look at this a bit more. So what is he actually trying to say here?
I did struggle to find a bit of context, but what I'm thinking is that this might be an answer to the Bank of International Settlements releasing their innovation and fintech report yesterday, which said that that crypto had missed the boat and we didn't have enough social innovation to basically remain relevant. And that's where CBDCs would come in, and that by 2030, CBDCs would be in 24 or 30 different countries. I can't recall. And so I wonder if this is a response to that. Like, yes, but is it really a CBDC is maybe what Musk is asking, or is this him insider trading? I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. He can't really tweet anything, can he, without getting accused of that? He's got such a reach now in the space that anything he tweets is like, well, that's just going to have an impact on here or there. So I'd be interested to explore some more what he means by exactly how they're going to be backed by GPUs. I don't fully understand the point here, if I'm honest.
The concept is that, from what I could tell, the concept is that right now we have currency that lives without digital backing, right? We have physical fiat, we have that sort of thing. And maybe we have some that have digital backing, but they're fairly stationary. So something that stays in a long-term account or something to that end. So they're not really using any power, and they're not using any graphics processing to maintain. Whereas when we switch to CBDCs, or we switch fully to crypto or fully to something on the blockchain, that GPU output is going to have to be a lot stronger or a lot larger. I think this is kind of what he's getting at, which is why I wonder if it is in response to the BIS statement about crypto not being relevant, or again, I wonder if this is just some conjecture that we get as clickbait.
Maybe.
Hard to say.
Maybe.
Ben.
Yes.
This is an exciting time in crypto where we change to blockchain finance, where we move from DeFi to TradFi to somewhere in the middle fi, Ven-Fi.
Exciting.
How are you feeling about the Degen news today? Do you feel like it's a FUD or a hype day?
I'm going to look back through the stories here. I think it's a hype day, if I'm honest. Yeah. I mean, the one I ran on Monday was more FUDdy. There's a couple of stories in there of people ceasing to trade, but overall, there's a lot on staking, right? There's a lot of institutional positive stories here. I just really like. My favorite one was the luxury watch. Luxury watch being backed by an NFT, very exciting step, and I would love to see where that's going to go. Houses, boats, cars. Where's that going to go? That whole segment of creating that digital record. So it's a hype day for me. It's hype.
Good. I think it is exciting. Like there's a lot of marketplace activity, right? For a while, sometimes it was a struggle to find news because things just weren't really happening. And whether this is a blockchain finance summer or whether people just got things together and all of those deals that they were making through the bear market are finally seeing the light, I don't know, but it does seem to be less of a go FUD yourself and more of a go hype yourself today. So.
Yeah. Is it going to be the beginning of a DeFi winter? I said it here first. No one do anything crazy to mess this up. This could be the very beginning.
That says DeFi winter on it. All right. This is a live show every day, Monday to Friday. We are available on everything, even Spotify. I'm looking at getting us on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for joining us, Ben. You're probably going to be stuck with Ben and I more often.
We're here for it.
Ben.
Ceara.
Go FUD yourself.
FUD yourself.